Behind the scenes with above average black men. We've been on sooner, but I had a call from Mackenzie.
Huh?
I had a FaceTime call from Mackenzie.
Oh, it's a call. I'm like, you kidding? I did not know you could add a title on there. No, I added the title of the show to live. I didn't know you could do that.
You almost ready? We're in a whole week out here, man. All right. All right. You call me money bear, man.
What's the difference?
Well, I don't know, man. It's a V-shape.
I can't grow my beard that long, so hey.
But while Devin's getting ready, I'm going to say welcome to another episode of Above Average Black Men. Yours truly, Chris Bender Sr. We are waiting on Chris Jr. What?
This part. We're here to empower, inspire, and uplift the community. And always, as always, I say, like, follow, subscribe, share, and comment. Interact with us, y'all. And I see some people on
Your voice
Instagram.
always gets high when you say that. You always raise your voice. When you say
You gotta make sure
that.
they hear it.
Come on, man. You got to put some boost from that voice. Yeah, but another great show lined up. Today we're going to talk about how to stay positive in a negative world. I mean, the world is so full of negativity. It is, and I run into so many people who are depressed, repressed, C-pressed, or all kind of pressed, man. Who just
All kind of press.
yeah, man, they just out of it because the things in the world just weighing heavy on them. You know, and it kind of correlates because suicide is up, all of those social pathologies, those negative things are rising to the top, man. So it's just crazy how many people are impacted by it. So today we're going to go over some tips on how to stay positive in a negative world.
So, give some examples. Like when you say a negative world, what do you mean? Like, what are some factors that could be,
Well,
hindering you or making you feel?
when you say to somebody, no matter how many times you see them, you say, "Hey, how you doing? Not so good." Hey, it's a great day. What's so great about it? Well, why are you always smiling? Why are you always so happy? Certain people just have a negative stigma. It's almost like the Flintstones and Bad Luck Rock. It's like no matter what happens, they just anticipate bad stuff to happen. They just, they wake up in the morning.
I don't get that reference.
And they don't expect. Well, you never seen. Okay, the Flintstones. I forgot who I'm talking.
I know what the Flintstones is. Right?
Bad Luck Rock was a character in the Flintstone, and everything always happened wrong for him. Hence the name Bad Luck Rock. Whenever he came around, stuff would break, stuff would crash. That was who he was. He just said this dark cloud kind of following him. And there's a lot of people like that.
Like Squidward from SpongeBob.
Yeah, well, okay, you're modern. Okay,
I get that.
So yeah, well, Mackenzie would get that correlation.
Yeah.
But there's just people like that. And I think part of it is because we expose ourselves to so many negative things. I start there. You watch negative movies. You look at the news first thing in the morning, the last thing at night. We just bombard ourselves with those messages. And that's not even counting the stuff that happens during the course of the day. There may be family issues. I was talking to somebody today, and we were having a conversation, and overwhelmed is becoming this popular word. I'm hearing a lot of now. And when you talk about overwhelmed, what it boils down to is, they're just full of negativity, and it just is weighing heavy on them. Because they begin to say, well, start out and say, hey, how you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So whenever somebody says okay, that's the rabbit hole. That's the first thing. They say okay.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you fall for it, and you'll say, hey, well, why are you just okay? And then you get the rabbit hole. So she goes on to tell me how she's having family issues and working with kids, that kind of stuff going on. And she has a lot of stuff going on. So I'm talking to her trying to say, okay, yeah, I get all that, but some of that you can control. And you have to remember, self-care is the most important thing. If people overwhelm your stuff, you got to cut something loose, because at the end of the day, they'll just move on to somebody else. You wore out, done, kaput, whatever, they'll move on to somebody else. And if you love them, they'll come back.
So in other words, it's contagious, is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's because it just wears you down. It's like, for instance, I give you a good example. You wake up in the morning, you're watching all the crazy stuff on the news. You're watching it, man, and politics suck. Everybody's looking out for themselves. It's like murder and mayhem some mornings. It's just a lot of negativity. And then you kind of decipher, well, how much of this is true? Because now
you never know.
Yeah, you just don't know. Yeah, you got to kind of go through it. So that's how you start your day out. That's before you do anything else. That's how you start your day out. And some people, you listen to different types of music, man. It just bring you down. Then you go out, you get in traffic. That frustrates you. Now you get to work, something else happened that frustrates you. And there's some people caught in that vicious cycle. Like I've come across young people who, oh, why you always look like you ate a lemon? My answer is always, I'm living my best life. Well, how you living your best life? That's just so impossible. So when you talk to them, they just put negative after negative after negative, and they don't cut stuff out. Like sometimes you gotta let people go. Sometimes you gotta move away from certain people. Everybody that's I say this all the time, everybody that's on your corner is not in your corner. So you have to figure it out. And so you just get so full of negativity, next thing you know, man, you're depressed. And then what do? You go home, you turn the news on again. You watching negative stuff, or
you listen to the same
music. Yeah, the same music, or you just hang around a bunch of people who are always negative.
So have you ever yourself experienced not saying I you said a story about the woman today, but have you yourself experienced you're having a bad day or?
Yeah, and you have to catch yourself. Like I gave you the perfect example. A lot of people have bad days because some of the terms they use. When you say, you make me, you give somebody else power. You make me mad. You make me upset. You made me do this. They didn't make you do it. You did it as a reaction that you chose, and you give away power. And once you start giving away power, now that person controls your emotions. And once somebody controls your emotions, they control you. Most people who control your emotions is not for good. They're not trying to make you laugh. They're not. They're trying to get in your head, man. And especially if they're trying to get sympathy, so they want to wear you down, and it gets heavy. It becomes a burden. Somebody sent me a video today. This guy was talking about it's kind of interesting because he was talking about being a man. How sometimes it seems like nobody cares. Nobody listens. Even the kids don't care. And it was a pretty good video. But in the back of my mind, I'm saying, okay, but some of that you can control. I can't control if people don't care. I can't. But I can control how much I let that impact me. Because if I'm saying you don't care, well, I'm gonna let it bring me down. Because you live in your life. You don't care. So I think, when I see stuff like that, I go back to the beginning, how you have to learn how to be as positive as possible. And I'm not saying you're not going to have some days, because there's some people who I think consign themselves to you just to be a pain in the neck. They just latch themselves to you. They're just going to be a pain in the neck. But I think most of the time it's stuff we can control, and we allow it to drag us down. And then what we feed ourselves, you're looking at negative stuff, you're seeing negative movies. You can't, I'm talking to some kids and they playing Fortnite. They watch all this violent stuff, use profanity, just the way they conduct themselves. So in every conversation they have, what's coming out their mouth? They influence. Their first reaction is, for instance, a lot of people get their definition of manhood and womanhood from social media, from or from TV.
Yeah.
And there's not a whole lot of bunch of people on TV being nice all the time because it don't sell movies. Nice is depicted as being weak. So I go back to it. So, and that stuff gets you depressed because now sometimes we get depressed because I'm getting into my list. We start comparing ourselves to other people. Why is Devin always having a good day? Why does Devin has a nice car? Why does Devin have this? And we get depressed and now we become negative. That's when is my turn going to come? I'm never going to get a turn. Somebody said to me today, well, it's not fair.
Yeah.
When they were talking to me about something, they said it's not fair. What's not fair? There's nothing in life says that I get what you get and you get what I get. Nothing. There's nothing in the world that says that. So if you want to say life is not even, because it's not always even, but life is not fair. And I say because when you start using words like that, again, that's how you get depressed. Because most people, when they say life is not fair, it's always to their disadvantage. They're not saying life is not fair when they live in their life and you not. Yeah, they're not saying, yeah, man, well, like, no. So I think, and this adds to depression. It also adds to being negative. So you got to start thinking positive. Like, I don't look at a lot of TV. I don't. I'm very careful what I look at. I look at some shows, but for the most part, I don't. I kind of wean myself off of media because now you can't even trust the sports broadcasters now. I was watching something yesterday where they were talking about Kenny Pickett is out playing Jalen Hurts, and then in camp.
No, I understand. Yeah.
So I'm watching that, and then now I'm watching everybody dispute it, saying this guy's making this stuff up. So you can't even watch sport. I mean, now you watch sports, it's like I gotta figure out, I don't, I can't, so you gotta control that. Some people get upset about stuff like that. I've seen people get upset about their sports team. It's not it's your team. It's not you. So some of the things to control. One thing, and I go back to the list. The first thing I say this before. When you get up in the morning, find something to be grateful about. We talked about this before. And said, find something to be grateful about because you can't be you down if you get up in the morning and complain about what you don't have, about what you should have. What's bad is going to happen today. You're starting the day off negative.
Now, what do you have to say to the person? Because sometimes I feel like people are so used to being negative, they don't even realize that they are negative. They're so entrenched in their ways. What do you have to say to that person? How would you break them out of their funk or make them realize, hey, listen, maybe you might be the problem?
Goodbye. No, you can't. See, that's a mistake we make. You can't break somebody out of something. You can give them tips, you can give them suggestions, but unless somebody is purposeful about changing, they don't change. I'm going to change because you're telling me to change and I want to be around you, but I'm not really changing. So the first time something happens, I revert back to who I am. So, some people just, they like being negative. They like being the victim. That's just how it is. They like being the person that can say, oh, woe is me, things are wrong. I tell people, I go out and speak to people, find something to be grateful about. I say that to everybody. Find something to be grateful about. I was talking to a bunch of kids earlier today, same conversation. Seniors about to go out into the world and they talking about some of the things that's a little wacky in the world and different things. Why are you focusing on that? Why? It's like the half glass half. When people have glass full, is the glass half empty or half full? I talked about it last week. People see the glass half empty, it's focusing on what they don't have. People see the glass half full, you focus on what you do have. And people go through life like that. So find something that you do have to be grateful about. You can get up, you got your health, be grateful. You're not dead. Be grateful. It may not be the job you want, but you have a job bringing income in. I'm not saying stay there, do something about your situation, but you can't go through like just complaining because you won't accomplish, you get anything. That's just basic. That's a basic law of life, man. If you go through life complaining, moaning, groaning, you never have time to do anything. A lot of people settle for mediocrity because they get stuck in this place in life and it becomes acceptable. So they're miserable. They're not happy. They hate their job. On Sunday night, they're getting headaches because they got to get them go to work on Monday. But they don't do anything to change the situation. Or don't think about, again, find something to be grateful about. You do. I've had days and I had to stop myself. Say, you know what? I got my health. I'm doing pretty well compared to some people. Not that I compare myself to other people, but I am. At this stage, people my age getting sick. I have, I've been able to overcome some things. I think the second thing is you got to know who you are. Because once you figure out who you are, you begin to understand a lot of your situations are just temporary. And what I mean by knowing who you are, destiny is not a matter of choice. I mean, chance is a matter of choice. We all make choices that kind of lead into our destiny. So once you figure who you are, you got to make better choices. I choose to watch the depressing stuff. I choose to put the depressing stuff in. I choose to hang around people who are just going to be moaning and groaning versus I got to find some positive people, versus I got to find out who I am. What do I like? What do I like about me? What do I want to do with my life? What excites me? What gets me, fired up in life? You got to figure out who you are. And then once you figure out, people won't be influencing you. Once you figure out, you can always find the silver lining and stuff. It's like Les Brown said, if you get knocked down, make sure you always fall on your backs, because as long as you can look up, you can get up. And I think so you have to get into that mindset, because life is not easy. This thing called life, man, is rough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's funny that you say that, and lately I've been on, my whole list kick, especially when it comes to a lot of these topics. And I actually have another list. This is just straight from Google, ironically. And it says, stay positive in a negative world. This is sources all across the web. So there's a little list here. And then I don't know if you also want to make your own list or compare, but a lot of these things that you already said are already on here.
They stole my stuff.
I mean, it could be. Who knows? Nowadays, AI and everything, they have the ability to.
It is AI. Well, see, it's funny you should say it, because I think that's another reason why people get depressed, because you no longer have to be creative. When you get to you, I look at myself. When I'm creative, when I got to think of stuff, man, I'm at my best.
Yeah.
I don't have time to be. But now you just hit a button and create something, man. How do you distract yourself now? You really can't. That was a form of expression, being creative, man. Whether it's, now short of playing sports or some physical activity, people just press a button and do stuff now. I just look at social media. There's no creativity in that. I'm looking at social media. I'm looking at a bunch of people who are recording social media better than me. Not making me feel good.
No. So on the list, first, it says practice gratitude, avoid negative habits.
Or people.
Give freely. Check yourself.
Back up. That's a good one. And some people will.
Why do you think that's a good one?
Will disagree, because the average person, not everybody. I feel good when I do stuff for people. I do. And you get to a point eventually where you don't expect stuff back. You do it because it's a good feeling. When I go in, like today, I spoke to a bunch of seniors and juniors today, co-ed group in the school today, and it was kind of off the cuff because I was expecting all the guys that I've been meeting with. So it was different, but I felt good because you share with them, you pour into them, and they're listening. They're asking you questions, you feel good about that. I feel good when I do the toy thing every year. I always eat that thing with a great feeling, man. The toy drive. I do. I always eat that with a great feeling, man. Like, wow, I'm helping people. When we do, I got this thing coming up in June. When I do the thing down at Discovery Center, we do this free team building and lunch and everything. I always feel good after that. And I don't do it because I want something back. I do it because it makes you feel better.
All right, I like that. Another one, check yourself.
Yeah.
And find positive friends. There's laughter.
Yeah.
And make a gratitude list. And I'm really wanting to know what you think about the gratitude list one. Well, what do you think about that first session, obviously?
Well, I think the gratitude list, I think I get it. Because if it's like, I'm huge on telling people to write their vision down. Yeah. I'm huge. Write it down so you can see it. So, because the more you see it, the more it becomes a part of your DNA, and you constantly reminding yourself of where you're trying to get to. So I see the gratitude list because when you see stuff, it sticks to you. You're not going to forget stuff you have written down. There's some days you might not feel good and you might not remember the stuff you're grateful for. So I like the gratitude list. I think the gratitude list is a good idea, especially for those who may struggle, remembering. So yeah, I think you do compose a list. And you gotta have. I think you have your go-tos. Your go-tos is like my go-to is my family. I'm proud of my family. That's my go-to. It doesn't mean they're perfect. You, Kristen, but that's my go-to. I've been married almost 40 years. That's my go-to. When sometimes in the morning I go step out on the back deck and I thank God where I'm at, because 2 + 2 don't always equal 4. I could be in a lot of other places than where I'm right now. So I think For some people, they got to write it down. For me, I'm constantly reminding myself. But I'll fill the list. Yeah.
Be grateful is one. I know you like this next one. It says pray.
Oh yeah, you gotta pray. You gotta pray. You gotta pray. That should be the top of the list. That should be the first thing to do.
Do not rush yourself.
So with that sarcasm, you know I like that one.
Yeah, nah,
No,
I do it for you. Focus on be positive, and they also talked about the news in general. So right along the lines, the same thing you're talking about. Avoid negative people, think positive thoughts, exercise and eat well, which that's probably my favorite.
Well, and I'll back up a little bit because when I'm talking to kids, I always say, I'll talk about leadership. Leadership is about influence. It's not about titles. He or she who has the most influence is going to be the leader. So, and I take the next step is we all have different influences in our lives. And like, I'll be talking to a group of kids. Well, I'm not influenced by anything. Yeah, you are, because you went Nike hoodie because you saw it somewhere. You weren't the first person. You wouldn't put that hoodie if everybody else was wearing a Reebok hoodie. The average kid wouldn't put on, for instance, you got shirt on. But you don't, because we influence. We don't know. We influence what comes on TV. We're influenced by what somebody says is popular, what somebody says is no good. We're influenced by it. We all can find something that we became attracted to because somebody else introduced us to it. And we became influenced by it. People in marketing understand it. You can watch the Super Bowl and you can eat a full-course meal before the Super Bowl. At halftime, you're home because all the food commercials come on. Some people drive cars because, hey, somebody drives his car, or they believe this car is going to get them to a status. It's like the person who bought LeBron James and can't play basketball lick. Michael Jordan made a fortune off of be like Mike. You might want to be like Mike, but everybody bought this league because be like Mike. Mm-hmm. So we're constantly being influenced. We just don't, want to acknowledge it when some of us don't realize it. So if I flip it over, it's the same thing about negativity. You're being influenced by bombarding yourself with all those negative messages. So it just starts to wear you down, or you become numb to it, which is worse.
Yeah.
Where 10 people get shot and you're like, well, life goes on. That just happens. That ain't the first time that happened. That's the other part of that. When you start to get a negative, when you get that negative vibe and you become negative, you get numb to a lot of stuff.
Start to normalize things that shouldn't be normalized.
Because it becomes an expectation for things to go wrong.
Now, I had a question, on this particular one, because it says surround yourself with positive people, find positive friends. What if you're surrounded by a negative person? It could be like in your family. It could be your partner, your significant other. What happens then?
You create space. Now, notice I didn't say leave. So nobody go say I said leave. That's not what I said. You create space and you find time to be by yourself. If you find the person is draining you, you create space. I got the man cave. So for me, if that was the case, I could come down here. This is my fortress of solitude. Superman had the fortress of solitude. This is my fortress of solitude. You could put on headphones, listen to music. You got to put positive stuff in.
Positive music, by the way.
Yeah, positive music. What you look at on TV, what you listen to. I read. First and foremost, I read my Bible. I make sure the first thing I read in the morning and the last thing I read at night is positive. Always do. Because I don't want to be dreaming about negative stuff either.
Yeah.
So the first thing in the morning, I got my Bible. Last thing in between, I'm reading different stuff. Because sometimes you can't help but get bad messages. Because stuff just happens right in front of you. Mm-hmm. You can't hide from the world. But again, back to the question, if it's somebody close to you, you got to create that time of separation, man. It's just like when you play ball. At some point, you got to replenish. At some point, you got to sit down. You can't play game after game after game after game and just play all day, because if you do, you get worse and worse and worse and worse. So at some point, you got to kind of step away and sit down. It's the same thing in life. At some point, you got to get away from the negativity. If they're not in your family, I know people that I do business with, and I'm very careful because I know after 5 minutes, I'm gonna hear all the negativity. So I just, let's get this business done. I'm rolling.
Now, one of the ones on this list, I really want to get your thoughts on when it says understanding negativity.
Yeah, sometimes you have to kind of look at the source. It doesn't mean you have to become a part of it, but one of my favorite things is I like to say is a lot of times we deal with the symptom and not the cause. Mm-hmm. So some people have, I hate to say the term, but they do. Some people have legitimate reasons to be negative, not stay negative. So I think you have to understand that. Like if you meet somebody and 6 people just died in their family, they're not gonna be doing jumping jacks feeling all over the place. So you have to be patient with that person. Or to your point, if it's somebody you're in a relationship with and you really care about them, you want to try to walk with them. Now, like I said earlier, you're not going to make them change, but you try to lead by example. You try to have more positive conversations.
Yeah. So, and then, like I said, one of my personal favorites, but I feel like it helps me out a lot, is exercise and eat well.
Yeah.
The reason why I said that helps me out a lot is because I'll speak from my own experience earlier today. I was in a little funk before I even got to the gym, like just thinking of work and different things like that. Just like as soon as I got in there and I got to focus on something and release some tension, I felt fine. It's like I left all my problems kind of at the gym door.
But see, now you have to learn to do that in different spaces because you may not always be able to go to the gym. Like for instance, I have my car is my sanctuary. So when I get in my car, in between places, I'm listening to positive music. That's my sanctuary. If it ain't earth shattering, my family or something, I ain't answering my phone. So my car is like my sanctuary. I'm just in there. When I get in my car, man, that's it. I'm on the way back from work. So by the time I get home, everything happened at work, I left at home. Or in my case, because I'm married, I'll give myself that 5-minute buffer to have a conversation with my wife. And then it's unloaded. Let's move on. So you got to create different mechanisms. I'm working out. I agree. I get on the treadmill. To think that's important. I'm about to get back to riding my bike again. When I get on my bike, so that is important as well. But you also got to come with different mechanisms because you can't always do that.
Now you did say thing about positive music. What are some give me some examples?
See me, you know what I'm gonna say though. What I listen to 99.9% of the time. I'm listening to gospel inspiration. That's what I listen to 99% of the time. But I love me some jazz. Now don't get me wrong, I love me some smooth jazz, man.
I was about to say because not everyone.
I love me some smooth jazz, man. You gotta find your cup of tea. Yeah. I love me some smooth jazz, but and I do like old school R&B. But if I'm depressed, I'm not gonna start playing love songs. You know what I mean? So, and plus understanding that, different types of music also evoke different types of feelings. You gotta remember that too. But for me, my go-to is always inspirational music or jazz. The other day you asked me what I listened to, this neo-funk they have now, which is kind of like this, I guess is a toss between jazz and funk, but it has a heavy Afrocentric flavor to it. I love that, man.
Like Afro beats kind of
thing. Yeah. I love it, man. I put that thing on, man. I'm in heaven, man. I just, and I can work and do what I got to do.
I definitely really like that playlist. But I don't know. I'll say this. I feel like and I can even speak for myself. I feel like the problem with a lot of people where it comes from is you're kind of attached to social media all the time. And it's like you view one negative thing. And that's when we were talking about the whole AI algorithm. Now, half of your timeline or half of your For You page is all this negative things and different things like that. It's like you said, you really have to control your intake of what you see. If you're watching things about the war in Israel or different things like that, a lot of that stuff is going to cross your timeline and it might affect you in one of the worst ways.
Yeah. Somebody sent me a video today with Robin Williams in it. And, it's an excellent video. As most people know, Robin Williams committed suicide.
Yeah.
But he did this video before he died, and what he talked about was, how we gotta live our life, man. Basically, man. How sometimes we focus on all the things that's wrong. And we miss life. We miss those great moments, man. We don't celebrate those great moments. And it's a shame that he got to the point where he committed suicide. But he's right. Most of us, we're so busy being depressed. We're so busy being negative. We miss the best part of life, man. And life is worth living. This thing called life, yeah, it can be daunting, it can be overbearing, but can also be the best experience you've ever had. But you and the thing about life is you get to choose. You don't choose what happened to you, but you can choose how you respond. That's your choice. You can choose to be miserable because stuff didn't go your way, or you can choose to say, let me look at the bright side of things. Hey, I'm embracing life. I see the glasses being half full, not half empty. Again, not comparing yourself to people. I want to make that abundantly clear. But the average person can probably look around and say there's people that are a lot worse off than they are.
Yeah, that's the hard part though, because naturally people like to compare. People are impatient. We're probably one of the most, well, I'll say we are the most impatient people.
Oh, definitely.
Definitely the human race as a group. You may have some outliers, but as a whole, especially nowadays, people compare. People is like, oh, I want what he has, because different things like that. Like, what do you do to combat that? I know you gotta think positive, stay in the moment, but for a lot of people, that's tough.
Everything is not for you. Everything is not for you. For instance, I like nice cars, but you know what? I'm not the guy that's gonna be out there washing the car. And I wash my car a lot. But I ain't gonna be out there every day. I ain't the guys who park on the other side of the parking lot so nobody won't park next to it. So I'm not gonna go out and spend $82,000 on a car. I don't get me wrong, I like a lot of cars, but to me, it's not a good investment because I'm not gonna take. You know what I mean? To me, when you spend that kind of money, you got to take care of your vehicle. That's not me. Sometimes I drive a little long before I wash it. Sometimes I go along for a vacuum. I got McKinsey in the backseat and ice cream. So I think, yeah, I would love to ride around the BMW and things of nature, but does that work for me?
Yeah.
That's the question you got to ask. Does it work for you? Like people, you got an $82,000 car, don't mean to offend nobody, but you live in an apartment in the projects. You know what I mean? That just makes no sense. My car depreciates over a period of time. Your property can appreciate over a period of time. So when you get into real estate, you know what I mean? You got to start thinking like that. And I think a lot of times we get desires intertwined in there.
Yeah.
Because I want to have this again because I want a status. I want people to know I got a BMW, man. I'm driving, Audi. I'm driving this because they get status. But the question is, are you happy? Because see, when you fall into that trap, you're counting on material things to make you happy, and anything material you can lose, and it's not going to give you a sustainable happiness.
I think the interesting thing that I found about the list is like they said all those things, find positive people. I found it interesting that I thought therapy would actually be one of those things to come on the list, in case you're talking to someone, that is professionally trained. It kind of guides you through this negativity.
I could see with therapy what you would think therapy would be on the list, but I think therapy is a way to help you get there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a therapist can get you there. They can assist you on the right path because ultimately it comes down to you making decisions. That's ultimately what it comes down to. And a therapist, can guide you. They can't, the decision is yours. There's some people who, they do. Oh, man, I got to see my therapist, man. But a therapist is not supposed to be a lifetime commitment. Seeing a therapist, you should be getting better. Now, it may take longer for some than others, but eventually, hopefully, a therapist is helping you find your way. So you can obtain happiness on your own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is an interesting one. Again, another list. It says, which I didn't know. This is from LinkedIn, by the way, and this is the first time I'm hearing this. It said, "What are the 5 C's of negative thinking?" I wanted to go kind of one by one. I kind of wanted to see what you were thinking. Like, the first one, it says complaining.
Oh yeah.
So it's like when you hear complaining, like kind of explain like that, and then how would you get through it?
When you complain, the thing about complaining that people don't understand is it becomes habitual. Because most people complain, you want to be heard. And when you complain, people hear you. That's just the bottom line, man. They probably hear you more when you complain than you do when you say good morning. So I think complaining is again, it's habitual and it's something that people fall into the trap. And some people think when they complain, they get results. So I can see because you complain, you're not complaining for something negative. So that's going to wear on you. So I can see where you complain every day. Yeah, because every day you got something to complain about. Every day you moaning and groaning about something.
But how would you overcome it?
Excuse me, you got to tell yourself, I'm not going to complain today. I'm going to do my best not to complain today. And you may slip and fall, but every day has to be purposeful about it. Has to be a goal about it, man. I'm gonna count to 10 Mississippi before I can say anything. That way, I'm gonna take my time and figure it out, and I'll make sure, even though I feel this way, that it's not gonna come out. Now, if it's justified, yeah. But if you just complaining because just to complain,
Yeah.
and it's raining outside, okay, you can't control that. So why you even complaining around that? That stuff you can't control. Traffic is crazy, okay, but you can't control that.
But I'll say some people like to complain just to literally get things off of their chest, not because they're looking for a solution or they're trying to bring people down. Some people just want to get it
It's
out.
a difference from being a complainer than being a chronic complainer. It's a difference. I think you can't help yourself but to complain about something.
Yeah.
Whether it's a football game, baseball game, basketball game, you can't help yourself but to complain about something. But there's a difference from a chronic complainer who complains about everything.
Like that. The next one is criticizing.
It's another habitual one. Sometimes we can get so caught up in talking about people, man, that it just becomes everything we say now and think becomes negative. Everything we say and think, we invest so much time tearing people down, man, that it tears you down. Because whenever you start tearing somebody down, you have to devote brain power to that. That's an effort. And that's taken away from you. Could be doing something else, man, thinking about something positive. Anybody you got to tear down shouldn't be in your inner circle.
But I'll say this: especially today, some people misinterpret maybe some constructive criticism or feedback. They interpret that as like real criticism to hurt somebody, or they like to call them haters nowadays. Like
everybody says that. Everybody says that, man. I was joking with somebody today, and they said that to me. But I think that's why I don't like to say criticize. I like to say critique, because most people, when they criticize, they don't follow up with a solution. When they just leave it. They leave it out there. But when you critique somebody, more often than not, when you critique somebody, you have something positive to follow up with. Okay, well, Devin, man, you could say, well, Devin, man, you didn't iron your pants today. You say, hey, Devin, man, you could have ironed your pants today, or this is a solution to the problem instead of, oh, you just all wrinkled up. You know what I mean? And I think we like to criticize. We don't like to critique. We don't like to say, okay, well, you could have done this a different way. Here's how you could have done it. Instead, we just say, you just messed up. Part of it is because of cancel culture. Part of it is because we just cancel people. So there's no patience or tolerance, man. You just one strike, you're gone.
Which I don't think is fair anyway, but that's another story for another day. The next one, concern.
Yeah, sometimes we become so concerned that we become consumed with somebody else's issues. We do. I've seen it happen more often than not, because I've been guilty of it. I've seen it happen more often than not when, I used when Dana passed away. Just the concern I had for his wife and his kids. It was starting to be, I had to take a step back because it was becoming my problem. It was becoming my issue. And no matter how close you are, it's not. So I can see that. Sometimes some people are so compassionate, they see something on the news and just pulls their heartstrings. There's nothing wrong with it, but you've got to be careful that it can't consume you. There's teachers, a lot of teachers go through that because they get in school and they working and they find out stuff about kids, man, just and they burn out. Or they find themselves depressed because they're trying to solve everybody's problems and you can't. It happens to some police officers. Some of the horrific stuff they see, they take it, it becomes personal. So I think, you could be consumed with other people's stuff and it could be a problem, man.
The next one is commiserating.
Let me join in with my own complaints. Oh yeah, man, that was terrible. Yeah, man, he treated you so bad, man. I don't know how you stayed good. Yeah, we do. We join in. We sing around. We all sing the same song, man. And I think I say this to the young people. Let me tell you something, man. If you're trying to move forward in life, if you're trying to make progress, and you're trying to do something, if you're in a room and everybody agrees with what you say, good or bad, you're in the wrong room. Because one, I don't think there's a situation where everybody, if you're dreaming bigger, and you're dreaming in more detail, there's no way everybody should be agreeing with you. If you're complaining and everybody's joining on the complaining and they're not saying, well, no, it's going to be okay, you're in the wrong group. Because somebody should be able to say, hey, it's going to be okay.
So in other words, it's like kind of enabling people.
Yeah,
like,
you do. Because you join in, man. You join right in and you just, or you, yeah, man, I saw the whole thing, man. They treated you so bad. Okay, you saw it, I saw it, I lived it. I don't need you to just relive it for me. And I think that happens a lot, that we join in because I'm already miserable. So now I got a partner.
Now, because I want to go back a little bit. You think it would be better to offer solutions instead of, enabling people, but at the same time, someone might think of that as criticism as well too when you're trying to offer
Well,
solutions.
it's two sides, and I'm going to say this, and some out there's not going to understand. Everything is not for you to get involved in, and I learned that.
Mhm.
Sometimes, and I'll give it from the spiritual side. Sometimes God allows people to go through stuff to grow, and He doesn't need you to interfere. That person needs that to happen to them. That person needs to go through that thing to mature and get to the next level. They don't need you bailing them out. They don't need you because some people never learn that way. They never learn that way. And the expectation is, okay, I know Dev's going to bail me out. I know Dev, so they just keep doing it. And then on the regular side outside, if there's such a regular side versus that, it's the same thing. You have people who just take it for granted now. I can live my life willy-nilly because I know Dev's going to bail me out. He going to be there. And it happens a lot in relationships. They take each other for granted.
Kind of making people lackadaisical.
Yeah, because if I know no matter how many times I screw up, you're going to take me back, no questions asked, why am I going to start really thinking things through? Now, again, I'm not saying dump anybody. It's not what I'm saying. But if you screw up, you should have some level of remorse. You should have some level of, how can we fix this? Not just, okay, and you keep doing it over and over again. And I think that happens a lot when you get too involved in somebody's stuff.
In other words, some people need to not mind their own business, but I guess kind of know their own business, if that makes sense.
I mean, I this is on a sad note. There's a young man who, I'm not going to get into the whole story, but domestic violence situation, somebody called a brother. He goes over there, he gets killed. He gets shot and he gets killed.
The brother or
the brother? So, sister called her brother. The brother come over there, and I'm not getting all deep into it, but that's a situation where, the sister got to think. If dude got a gun, why would you do that? And dude got to think that, in this day and age, you got to be careful. And I said, yeah, you want to protect your sister, but if you holding her hostage, she can't get out. But can you leave? I'll meet you somewhere. You got to start thinking this stuff through.
Or call the police.
And that's what I meant. I know that's out there because people look at me like I'm crazy, but you have to start thinking this stuff through, man.
And then the last one, forgive me if I mispronounce this, catastrophizing.
We make everything into the end of the world. Oh, man. I don't know, man. I don't know how you're gonna bounce back from that one. To me, this goes back to say, if ever you can look up, you can get up, and you always get a second opportunity. I think until you die, until you can't breathe anymore, until then you have a do-over. Now I'm not saying it's going to be the same exact thing because it doesn't, but I've made mistakes. I've dropped the ball. Sorry about that mosquito. And God's offered to give me a second chance, man. So I've been there before. I think a lot of people, things happen and they call it, then they predict it's the end of the world, or somebody says it for them. Oh man, I've heard people say this, man. You should have stayed with him. You should have stayed with her, regardless of how the person treats them. You ain't gonna find no boss who get. Come on, how do you know? You make this person seem like they're the end of the world, and that's not true. Or man, people lose their job. Man, that was a great job. You ain't gonna find a job like that. How do you know? We make it seem like, and that's not helping the person, but we make it seem like it's the end of the world. I believe that when one door closes, another door opens. I think a lot of us, we miss the door opening because we're so busy moaning and mourning what we just lost. And a lot of times we do. We make things like this, and I'm not saying things are going to happen. It's going to hurt. It's going to drive you crazy. But it's not the end of the world. Because as long as you can go to, it's like my coach used to say this in college. He said, let me tell you something, man. Bad games are a part of this. He said, and the better you get, you're going to have the worst bad games going to be because your level of expectations, people level expectations. But he said one thing will never change. And we used to say, what's that? And he said, because when the sun rises tomorrow, you'll be a chance to get up and do it all over again. And if you can't, it don't matter anyway. But if you can get up the next day, you got another shot at it. And that's how I look at life. As long as I can keep getting up the next day, I got another shot at it.
Now, I got a quick question here. Do you think negativity is kind of like, and let me explain this, like a selfish thing? Say, for example, someone is being selfish, they're being negative.
Definitely.
You want to bring someone down with you so they can get the misery instead of.
If you're negative and you're trying to use to get attention, it is selfish. Mm-hmm. If you're negative, and for instance, if you're in a relationship with somebody, I'll say married, you're married to somebody. Mm-hmm. I do think it's negative I do think it's selfish. I don't see what you're trying to accomplish. And instead of me trying to understand, I'm just a naysayer.
Yeah. That's
not going to work. Why are you trying it? And that is selfish. That's not even trying to see. Mm-hmm. I think that's very selfish. I think it's like if you're on a team and your team is rolling. I've been on teams when I was the man. Mm-hmm. But there were games when I wasn't the man. I'm still not gonna put up 40 shots. I'm not that ever took 40 shots, but you know what I mean. Sometimes you gotta know when to defer. Because the bottom line is winning. It's the same thing in life. The bottom line is winning. So there's some times when you got to say, you know what, I'm gonna keep this negativity to myself. I'm not gonna bring somebody down who's hustling, trying to make this thing work. I'm not gonna be the one to be like a millstone around his neck, weighing him down or around her neck. So yeah, I think sometimes it is in selfishness because you gonna know that I'm miserable. I need you to know that I'm not happy. Mm-hmm. I need you to know, and why? Or I don't need you reminding me over and over and over and over and over again. So I think it is a hint of selfishness there.
Now I know we talked about the whole negativity thing, how it spreads and different things like that. But I kind of want to flip it to the other side. You're like you said, you're a pretty positive person. Yeah. How would you spread those aspects? To make a change in people's hearts, like, maybe I should look at the brighter side of things.
Well, I can say this. Miserable people don't want to be around people that's not miserable. They don't. You get on their nerves. So either they'll separate themselves for you, or they'll start to come around. Mm-hmm. And some of them stick around because they're curious. To me, I always say I'm living my best life. Does that mean every day is the greatest day of my life? Nope. It's not, but I look at where I come from, what I've accomplished, and I'm not saying this in a braggadocious way. It's pretty impressive. Mm-hmm. I could have taken another path. I could have made other choices that things didn't work out the way they worked out. I could have. It wasn't like I sat there and I had this crystal ball and I knew if I went right, it was going to work out and left. No, sometimes you just, you travel a path, I believe God leads you, but sometimes you'll make a choice and it just turns out to be the right choice. And I think, you got to have to be happy about that. You got to celebrate that, and I think people around you, like people says, I'm living my best life. Mm-hmm. And some people get tired of hearing me say that. They do. Let me go another way. One thing I do with men, I do in my restorative circles, I use the red light or stoplight syndrome. Red means I'm having a terrible day. Yellow means I'm having a so-so day. Green means I'm having a great day. I'm always on green. I tell people that. Now, are there some times where I'm like a little yellowish? Are there some times when maybe I'm like teetering Tom on red? Yeah. But if I keep saying it, I'm never getting off of red. I'm not. So you know what? I'm living my best life. Because today, this is my best life. Mm-hmm. It may not be the best thing that ever happened to me, but it is my best life. It beats the alternative of being dead. And I think you have to look at things like that. You got to look at things like, what? As long as I can get up, I got another shot at it.
In other words, you don't really dwell in those negative emotions.
You got to get out of it.
Reassure yourself.
Sometimes they last a little longer because I think everybody goes through it, but you got to get out of it. And a lot of times it's because we don't make our minds up to get out of it. That's a lot of times the problem. We like the pity party. We want people to ask us, "Oh, what's wrong? I see you pouting," and not. Nah, if I'm having an off day, most people won't know. Now I have a tendency to get quiet sometimes, but I'm not walking around here looking like I'm ready to cry out, sackcloth and ashes. I don't. And I think, when you do that, you feed into it. Like, I believe if you tell somebody you love them enough, you eventually start to love them. Because you say it, you saying it, you saying it, you saying it, you saying it, you do. It's the same way. How many people don't like something they never tried before? They just say, I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. So you don't even know why you don't like it. I'm guilty of that. There's something I've never tried before, and I say, I don't like it.
See, the love thing is tough, especially around men, because a lot of dudes don't like to say that to each other, especially nowadays.
That's a whole show. But I deal with that too. See, and I think, sidebar, we get back to it. See, I think that's one of the problems we have in society. We do. Because why can't you say you love your brother? Why? I don't see anything wrong with that. There's a bunch of brothers that I know, in the King movement. I've known Tommy Franklin since first grade. Yeah. I've known Isaac since kindergarten. I got friends like that, and we say that to each other because we do. We know what we've been through to get to where we are, and we have that. We like family. We like brothers, so that's what we say. And I don't care. Somebody, whatever you want to take it and run with it, take it and run with it.
Now, as far as positivity, is there, while we kind of come to a close a little bit, is there like a certain, it could be a podcast, a couple Bible verses that that you keep on hand? Is there some specific songs that may keep you up in the spirits, and you may want to recommend for people listening?
Man, there's so many things I do. You always see because sometimes you see I listen to certain songs over and over again, and I do. Think about something. I'm terrible when it comes to names. Mm-hmm. I am, but I think Bible verses. He who was in me is greater than he was in the world. Whatever I'm going through, man, is greater thing that can happen to me right now. I'm going through. You probably don't read the devotions I send you, but I'm going through Job. I do. And it's the first 2 chapters. God says to Job, and I think it's amazing that the response when the devil is going to and fro, and they're having this conversation. Look at my servant Job, and the first time he says it, you kind of get it because Job has everything going on. But in chapter 2, he says it again. That's after the devil took out his family, took out all the chosen thing, but he still was able to maintain his integrity and character. He was still able to obtain his faith in God, his trust in God, and I think things like that, do kind of inspire me, man, because it reminds me, first of all, is that my time on earth is not going to be measured by what I've accomplished years from now. People are going to, what did I do while I was here? If I leave a car to somebody 5 years from now, the car is going to be old. Hopefully I left something with somebody that's going to outlive me. So I think that's how you kind of got to look at it. I think that's how you kind of got to look at life, man. That you want people to be positive. You want people to remember positive things about you, and you want it to be contagious. I would like to think that when I leave a room, whether I'm speaking or whether I'm hanging out with friends, I leave it better than when I came in.
And is that how you kind of pass it on to the youth?
When I'm talking to adults, I say the same thing.
Yeah.
We have more power than we think we have, and that's the problem. Society, through politics, wherever, has convinced us, social media, we don't have any power over our situation or circumstance, and we do. I can't control what folks do to me, but I can control how I respond. I can't control if somebody does something and it bothers me. I can't control if I'm walking around for 3 weeks later moaning and groaning. I can't control it. I told you before, we give power away because you made me, he made me. No, nobody made you. They did something and you made a choice to do what you did. Yeah. But when you keep saying so I don't give my power to anybody. I don't. I'm not going to do that.
Like you're saying, we're giving power to too many different aspects of life.
And to people, especially to people in situations. It's like, and I don't mean any harm, it's like if you mad at somebody that died 10 years ago. Why? I get it. They may have hurt you and done some things, but they're gone now. There's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing they can do about it, but you're still being held hostage. Just like somebody who gets out of jail and they still living with the jail mentality. There's a friend of mine a long time ago, and he told me this story real quick. When he first got out of jail, he came home, and he was in jail for a long time. He went to jail when he was youth. Like he got out, he was a man, and he said something that was powerful to me, and it just image stuck with me because when he was in jail, you only allowed to have a certain amount of T-shirts and stuff like that. And when he came home, he was in that same mindset. He wouldn't buy a whole bunch of stuff for himself. He kept the minimum stuff.
Like 4 T-shirts.
Folded them the same way. He did everything, that mentality. He found himself telling every time he was about to do something, I'm going. He just found himself, he was in that mindset. And it took him, so the bars were gone.
Mm-hmm.
His mind, so it took him a while to get out that mindset. And I think a lot of us with negativity, we hold ourselves hostage. We do.
In other words, break the mindset.
It's a mindset, man. I mean, things are going to happen. Everything is not going to be perfect. You may have a day when it's raining, you get a flat tire, and your spare got a hole in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. It is. But you being upset and angry and cussing people out, what does that change? It's not going to fix the spare. It's not going to make your tire get air. It's not going to make it stop raining. So what's the point?
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize, a lot of things in this world is a mindset.
It is.
Yeah. It really is a mindset, and like you said, it's with your intake, whether it be the music or the movies or TV shows, with your kind of intake, you kind of release that energy back out into the world.
I learned it when I was playing sports, that even in sports, it was a mindset. Mm-hmm. That if I went into a game, whether it was baseball, basketball, football, and I went in with the mindset that I was going to dominate, 90% of the time I did. Mm-hmm. But if I wanted the mindset, so-and-so's on that team over there, so-and-so, the performance wasn't the same. So for me, I'm going to win. It's like, I remember a very good friend of mine, his brother was coaching us. He used to tell us a curveball was a figment of your imagination. It was an optical illusion. And I just say, yeah, until you get hit, until you get hit by one. Yeah, but for me, I just saw the ball hit the ball. I never got into curve. I see the ball hit the ball. That was my philosophy. I'm not going to get up here and guess and start, see the ball hit the ball. That is the primary function. Basketball, the ball goes in the basket. The guy who puts the basketball in the basket the most, that team wins. Yeah. Simple equation. And life can be that simple. When we start getting into, because Devin got an ugly jump shot, or Chris got a pretty jump shot, or my jump shot is flat and all this stuff, but the flat jump shot is going in the basket. That's who's winning the game, and that's how we do in life. We focus on the wrong stuff. And I tell people, man, the bottom line is you cannot let people put a value on you. And the minute you start thinking negative about yourself or negative about your situation, you allow people to define you and put a value on you because you never see your full potential. You never see who you really are. And there's too many people around here who are living a mediocre life because they never saw any full potential because they don't see the value in themselves. So you trapped in a bad relationship. You trapped on a bad job because I can't think they're going to get no better. Yeah. People go get a new car in a heartbeat, but they won't change jobs. They'll complain all day long. People don't work on their relationships. They just complain about it all day long. But the minute something happens to the car, they take it to the shop to get it fixed. Mm-hmm. And I can go 2 days without my car being fixed, but you won't fix your relationship. And that's what I mean. You don't complain. You don't sit there. Hopefully you ain't complaining, man, my car ain't running right. You don't sit there for 6 weeks. No, you take it to get it fixed. So it's the same thing with something negative in your life. Get it fixed.
And then just to leave it, I did see this quote online that I really did like. Now I'm reading it more and more. And it says, your outlook on life, that's like what really counts. And I really every time I'm reading, I'm just like, I understand kind of where they're coming from, the outlook on life, your outlook. If you look at a positive way, then I feel like more positive things will happen. That
my counter to that is, don't allow your perception to screw up your reception. And what I mean by that is, never allow your perception of the truth to prohibit you from receiving the actual truth. Too many of us, our perception is why we're in trouble. Because we think, I can't get any better. We think I'm not good enough. Mm-hmm. We think this is the way my life is going to be. We think this is who we are. And then when things happen and let you know that you could do something different, you don't even receive the truth. Because your perception is so strong. Mm-hmm. that you can't see the truth and they smack you upside the head. You know, somebody come offer you a job and, well, I don't think I'm worthy. You know, most times people don't offer you a job, they don't think you can do it.
Yeah.
You know, so your perception versus reception is huge. It's huge.
Got to get out your own way.
And some people say I'm arrogant. I've heard it before. Some people say I'm cocky. You know, I just, you know, and you know, I wrote about devotion. Same thing I told y'all. Yo, you always walk around like you own the joint. You should never walk into a room like you're defeated. You should never walk in a room like. And when I first started out doing this, before I became successful, you know, and I'm not great, but I'm pretty good at what I do. And not in a braggadocious way. I used to always walk in and wonder if I belong there. You know, and I remember something my dad told me. My dad said, nah, man, you always walk in and wonder if they belong in the room with you. Because you walk in not knowing them, assuming you don't belong there, but you don't know them. So you don't know they belong there with you. That's the attitude you got to take. And that's the attitude I take. You know, somebody say this about me, and it's not my problem. They say, hey, you know, you make me feel like I'm not smart. That's on you.
Yeah, it's a personal problem.
You know, I worked hard at my craft to learn. I've made a bunch of mistakes to learn the stuff what I do. I'm not going to dumb it down just to make you feel good. That issue is your issue, not my issue. Because I don't care if I'm around somebody. I have a friend of mine, Damon Richardson, and we talk once a week on Tuesdays. This dude is super intelligent. He is. The way he presents things, the way he says things, I don't feel intimidated. I learn from him, but also know I have things to share with him. It may not come out the same way. You know, but yo, $100 bill is $100 bill. Whether you ball up or whether it's brand new, it still spends the same. It don't change. It's still $100 bill. Yeah. The value is not going to change. Whether it's spick and span, brand new, you know, or whether it's on a Visa card, you know, what it's $100 is $100. So your value is your value. It may be different in the presentation, but doesn't mean you're worth any less.
It's an awesome point. And I think we should definitely leave off there, unless you had any final thoughts.
No, I wish I could. This video is like Robin Williams, man. It's crazy, man. And I know I'm not gonna play it, but I like the video because he goes in this huge conversation, man, about life, and he shows, you can see the highlights of all the movies he's played in, how these great times he had, and he's narrating it. It's almost like he's leading up to his death. You know, but he's showing highlights from the movies, and life is like that. If we all take our time and stop and pay attention, you know, we got a lot of highlights in our life, man. Now it may not be like Michael Jordan, may not be like Allen Iverson, but you know what? It could be like somebody who spent 20 years in the league and did all right for themselves. You know, you made the team. You know, my attitude in life has always been this, and we can close around this. I may not have always been the best person, but nobody could ever say they outworked me. That's it. What I'm doing now, you know, when I was playing sports, you were not going to outwork me. You were not going to outwork me. I think when it comes to working on yourself, is being happy and being complete, you know, and not being pulled into this negativity. You got to have an attitude, man. You know, you're. I don't care how hard you work at making me negative. It ain't gonna work.
I like that. I just gotta go with that. That was really deep and profound. I want to say thank you to all the people that, you know, tuned in on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and to the people who are going to watch this in the future. Thank you in advance. Shout out to Chris. I know he couldn't make it. I know he's somewhere safe. Again, we're here to empower, inspire, uplift the community, and I'm always here to remind y'all to like, follow, subscribe, share, comment, interact with us. You got anything upcoming? Or?
No, that's it. Yeah. Same time next week.
Same time next week.
If
you have any topics, let us know. You can hit us up on, like I said, Facebook and Instagram. If you have something you want to talk about, if you want to be on the show, let us know.
Yep. Another great episode of Above Average Black Man. See you next week. Same space, same time.
That really happened? Like someone got their brother killed?
I don't know.